What's up, motherfuckers? In the today masterclass, I'm going to show us how to play the closed Spanish with d3 instead of with rook e1 followed by c3, d4 with the normal way. I'm going to show us how to play with d3 with this game of Pouya against Esipenko. So let's analyze the game. Okay, first this we can reach this position in the Spanish like this, and now we have many moves, but I'm going to put the focus on a4. Was the move employed by Pouya, a4. Okay, now we are attacking b5. Black here have many responses, but we're going to focus into bishop d7, who is defending the rook, because now white is threatening to take on b5, so bishop d7 is defending the rook. Before another possible move, here a5 used to be fine. Bishop b7, I not recommend this move because the bishop on b7 is bad placed because the pawn is in d3 now, and the black pawn is in d6. When you play bishop b7, used to be to break the center with d5, but with the pawn on d6, I don't like so much the bishop on b7. Or bishop rook b8 was another possible move. But okay, today we're going to put the focus on bishop d7. Now c3, the idea is play d4 one day. Short castle, now we go back with the bishop to a2 because in some nights black is playing knight a5, so we just can go back with the bishop to a2. And now black plays a6. That's a good way for black to play a6. The idea is play later rook e8 and bishop f8, just to improve the position of the pieces and avoid knight d5, because if he plays rook e8 directly, we have these ideas of knight d5. So h6 would plan to defend knight d5, and now white is still improving his pieces with h3, prepare the square e3 for the bishop, rook e8, bishop e3, bishop f8, knight e2. And until here, everything is normal. Both players have developed normally his pieces, and now comes the first mistake of black. Black tries to trade this bishop with bishop e6, but was better, for example, to play knight e7. The idea is came to g6 with the knight. So if white makes an now knight g6 is the next move, and maybe the c5 pawn, the c pawn could advance to c5. So that's the idea of 97. And here we have an interesting move of with g4. And now g5 was the best response, h4, and we reach this intense battle of bishop g4. Stakes. Now queen c1, leaving the pin, bishop a6, and the position is equal, but it's so difficult. And queen c8 here was the other interesting move. If, for example, if b4, now 97. The idea of queen c8 is avoid d4 because here black can sacrifice here on g4. That's the idea. I'm going to check a second with the machine, but I remember that this was the. Oh no, sorry. I completely missed it. The idea is here takes on e4 and h3 is going to be under attack one day. For example, black white cannot stay here because bishop h3 is coming, and the most important then the queen is coming to g4. That's the huge idea of queen c8. Because with the queen on the 8, example, if you play a normal move like rook b8, after some d4s, later, for example, to put an example, play before here. Now g5 can came because after bishop h3, g takes f6, and here white is better. But the huge difference is that with the queen on c8, later after all the line, the queen is entered on g4. So that's the huge idea of the position, that now the queen is entered on g4. So that's the idea of queen c8. So now the move c4 have now so strong. So strength, sorry, b4 can be a possibility here, and now 97 or 92. But now with the queen on c8, now bishop e6 is better because we're going to recapture with the queen, who is a better recapture than with the rook. Because the problem of bishop e6 here is that after bishop takes, the rook is bad placed on e6, and you cannot take with the pawn. And you can take with the pawn, but when you have the rook on the f5, here with the rook on e8 is not the best. So here I recommend or queen c8 to play bishop e6 or 97 to play knight g6. So bishop e6 bad move, bishop e6, rook e6, and here I'm going to show us the game and the best move because the game was interesting too. But okay, I'm going to show us both things because the idea played by Pouya was also interesting. It's not the recommendation of the machine, but I think that it's very interesting to learn about that game, and because maybe you can win some games with this idea. like Gidani, who is he made a very good game. But in this exactly moment, the machines prefer the move d4 because the he said that the rook is bad placed on d6, so we are going to use that to break with d4. If the rook was on e8, this can never happen because if the rook was on e8, for example, to put an example, no, rook e1, rook e8 here, d4 have no so much sense because, for example, why can take in this position, no? Why can take, sorry, black can take the e4 pawn, but with the rook on e8, this doesn't work because now d5 is coming, so that's why d4 here is so strong because the rook on e6 is misplaced. If black tries d5, we can just trade everything. f4 and e5, which is a typical response after this type of e5. Just trade everything on e5, f4 and e5, and now knight f3. And white is better thanks to the e5 pawn, and the other pawn is coming to f5. And if he goes back with the rook, now we're going to play d5. And now important move b3 to counter response c6 with the move c4. That's a very typical game with white, and here we have the advantage if white managed to create this pawn structure. But okay, I'm going to talk about the move. Okay, d4 was the recommendation of the machine, but I'm going to put the focus into the move d4, played by Danny Pouya. Okay, it's not the best of the machine, but okay, still the machine say that this is an interesting move. It's not bad, of course, and it's very interesting the idea of Danny Pouya during this game. I really like. Okay, here Esipenko played before. For example, if d5, the idea is, for example, if you break with d5, now I trade everything and play e5 d4 and take, and okay, knight h7 was that's why the machine play this position. Who of course is so difficult for black to play like this. And rook e8 is the normal move, and now we just can trade, and for example, g5 here, who looks normal. Or king h2, prepare a little bit the move g5 first, king h2, later rook g1, and finally play g5. So, okay, that's another way to play by black, but okay, before is a completely normal move, and now a very good move of Pouya, g5, that's the following moves. If you play g4, is to play g5 later. So, yes, I want that you put the focus on this exactly position. D4 was the best move according to the machine, but Pouya makes the very interesting plan of g4, followed by g5. I want to employ in some of my games this plan because that's amazing. g4, g5, very good plan. H takes, knight takes, rook e8, and now white start to double rooks on the g5 with king a2, b takes, g6. Okay, black defends well with g6, bishop g7, rook g1, and now white still just coming with more pieces to the king side, and now black made a incorrect plan. He should defend placing well the rooks. First, he should place the rook on b8, controlling the open b file and entering on b2, rook g2, and now other important move, rook f8. This is because white is coming with knight f7 in some lines with this knight sacrifice and later take on g6. So the idea of rook f7 is just recapture on f7. After rook a1, just knight g7. And now you see that black is defending this pawn with the rook and this pawn with the knight. So the piece sacrifice of white doesn't work. So that's the correct idea to play with black. So queen d7 here, bad move of Esipenko because he's not anticipating his opponent plan. And now he is still without anticipate his opponent plan. Again, he should just place better the rooks, place the rook on b8 and the other rook on f8 defending. One rook in the offensive task and the other rook in the defensive task. And for example, h4, knight e7, and finally d5. That's the way to play with black. The problem is that he breaks the position with the both rooks bad placed because the a rook is bad placed on e8 because of course he's in a close fight. The a rook should be active on b8 and the e8 rook is bad placed because he should be defending the f7 pawn. So when you break the position with your pieces bad places used to be bad. So first you should, in the majority of the cases, you should correctly place the pieces and later break the position. That's why I recommend us to play. Okay, rook g1. Pouya still with his plan. It's so easy to play chess when you have a clear plan, and it's your opponent who thinks how to create counterplay or how to defend. Now is your plan. Always in chess is easier attack than defend. So very interesting plan of Pouya with g4, g5, king a2, rook g1, queen f3, and later doubling rooks on the g5. Now all the white pieces are attacking. Okay, the d2 knight is not attacking, but okay, we cannot have everything. The knight is a good place on d2. And now comes the last decisive mistake of black. For example, if he tries now to place well the rooks, now the problem is knight f7 is coming. This sacrifice idea. If rook f8 trying to defend, okay, it can look fine because okay, he's defending the f7 sacrifice, but now he takes, knight takes, and now or queen g3 or queen e4 followed by queen h4 is so annoying. So knight e7 here was the correct move to defend because okay, he's not defending f7, but he's defending g6 from after a possible sacrifice. So he takes, and now important move queen f5 to trade queens. c4 takes knight f5 bishop d2, but okay, white is better thanks to his pawn up, but that's the better way to defend with black. Now comes d4, the second mistake in a row by no, the third mistake in a row by Esipenko. And here, Pouya sacrifice, but that's not the correct move order to sacrifice. Was stronger. Take on d4. He takes and now sacrifice the knight. That's this move order was stronger. The first, yes, change this tension, and later sacrifice on f7. King takes rook d6, rook g8, bishop f4. That's the idea of take first on d4. And now I have this extra move of bishop f4. That's in the game. He haven't. Bishop h8. And now, important move, keep rooks over the board with rook 6 g5. Very interesting. Rook takes and rook takes, and white have a great attack. Also, white is better here. The black king is so unsafe. So, he only takes on a7. He's still having the advantage here, but it's not. Yes, the machine prefer just take on d4 first. Knight f7, and here Esipenko made another mistake with king f7. Was a stronger take with the queen. It's not easy, of course, like I told you. Always the difference is not easy. But queen takes is better. Rook g6, d takes c3, rook f6, black, white is sacrificing everything. You cannot take, of course. Queen e7, rook c6, finally. And now the other knight is hanging, so all the white have no small pieces. And now he returned to e6, and he's going to take the queen and the bishop for the two rooks. So now we're going to reach a position with a queen against two rooks who, okay, black have good chances to hold the game. I of course think that white is better here, but okay, black have some chances to defend. But here, king f7 is a losing move because he has rook g6, rook g8, she takes, and again, Esipenko defending a incorrect way. He takes d4 was stronger to defend, and here we can transpose to the. Yeah, I think that this transpose to the line that we saw previously. In this moment, I analyze a little bit more because okay, in the past I stopped in this moment because I need to show us now what happened. For example, in rook g8, who looks like the natural move. Now we return to c5, attacking the knight, and when the e5 is coming, rook g6, e5, knight h7, queen h5, attacking the knight, king g7, knight f3, queen f7, bishop g3, king knight, and rook e6, and finally we trade queens, but now the black pieces are so bad here. Let's see how bad are the pieces, and these pawns are so strong. So white is better here. But Esipenko take with the knight on d4, which is a huge mistake. Because after the problem is that you are not attacking nothing. Because at least with it takes d4, at least you are attacking the bishop, and you can win some tempos over no one tempo over white. But the problem of knight is you are not attacking nothing. So white can just trade and improve the pieces, and black is completely lost. Queen f5, rook a8, and knight f3, and here white just resign because the position is completely lost. So, okay, very good game of Idani Pouya. I really like his plan in this specific position where, okay, the machine say that d4 is stronger, but I really like the plan that he employed with g4, g5. I really like his plan. So, okay, I need to show us more or less fast what he do. G4, here g5, knight takes, and now doubling rooks in the g5 and play the queen on f3 to finally sacrifice. Well, normally in chess it's easy. You should place perfectly all the pieces and later you will need a sacrifice to break the opponent's position. So very interesting game of Idani Pouya to beat Esipenko and trying to advance to the next round to the World Cup. So let's see how continue the tournament. Bye bye, motherfuckers.